I'd like now to present to you the speakers for our first conference. First of all, today we will have Father Tjeu van Knippenberg, who is a Vincentian priest from the Congregation of the Mission. He is professor of practical theology at Tilburg University. And with him today, also presenting, is Peter Reijers, a business consultant and coach, mainly active in the field of communication skills, often in building companies in the field of construction. Both of them are involved in the Vincent Hall Center in the Netherlands. Now turn it over to both of them. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being invited here. For Peter and myself, it is an honor to make a contribution to the theme of this symposium, welcoming the stranger. Both of us, as you heard, are involved in the Vincentian Hall Center, a center for social spirituality in the Netherlands. My fellow speaker, Peter, is busy in the world of building in the field of construction. He knows about buildings and houses, and the title of our contribution is A Common House.
Yes. Thank you. Well, you were introduced to Tjeu. Good morning. Tjeu is nowadays active in the field of spiritual guidance. He leads retreats all over the world, and he will approach our theme from as well a biblical as a Vincentian and an experiential perspective. I, being a lay, only this week I found out that I am your main target group, so I was surprised and honored. Thank you for that. My approach will be from the angle of the present corporate world, and more specific, this is the spiritual guidance, the business world as we know it in the Dutch corporate environment. Vincent, I'm sure, would have been quite popular there, being a practical man.
In our presentation, we want to contribute to understanding the theme welcoming the stranger. In today's world, it can be observed that the arrival of refugees raises different responses. So in our country, the Netherlands, there are various positive as well as negative responses to Pope Francis's message for the World Day of Migrants and Refugees, August this year. He, the Pope, calls us to welcome, to protect, to promote and to integrate refugees. And for Pope Francis, this attitude and behavior are in accordance with the overreaching goal of his encyclical LAUDATO Si. This goal is to build an integrative and sustainable common house for everyone.
So, if this is the goal, it immediately poses a question. How do we build an integrative and sustainable common house for everyone? Is it possible in our global and also multicultural world? A common house presupposes a certain degree of familiarity and mutual agreement, but how will strangers fit in such a home? Because in our understanding, strange can be foreign, alien, odd, funny, peculiar, curious, weird, quaint, or singular. All these possible meanings of strange are an indication that the stranger apparently belongs to a different order. Apparently he does not belong to the world as we have built up in our familiar environments. So how can the Pope's dream become true, old and new people together integrating in a common house?
Let us investigate this question. First of all, looking at the Bible. We see that the relation to the stranger, even in the Bible, is an ambivalent one. A common house. At the one hand, the Lord God is only there for Israel, the chosen people with its own land, language, and rituals. At the other side is the question, how can other peoples be saved? The attitude towards the stranger is an ambivalent one. And in this ambivalence, God calls the people to keep the memory alive that they themselves were foreigners and strangers in Egypt. See Leviticus. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. I'm the Lord, your God. This is a call to come to our destination with the same urge. The spiritual things when Israel was in Egypt and let my people go. Because the people wanted to be free. No more slaves, no more flesh pots, but from slavery to freedom, from unconsciousness to consciousness, from selfishness to love, from ruling to serving. Return as a people and as an individual to your own history. Remember Israel. Remember. Go back to your most inner self and see how it is to be a stranger and to be welcomed in a common house.
Now, please allow me to share some thoughts connecting dots between this and my country and my working field. You all may know our image. In matters of money, the fault of the Dutch is giving too little and asking too much. I hope it does not apply to all of my countrymen all the time, but still, latitudes have sometimes a reason for being there. But the Dutch moved on from exploiting slaves, which we did, and we also invented apartheid, not something to be proud of, to being a country that has a solid place in the ranking of the happiest country in the world. Year after year, we are in the top 10. And consider this, Holland is the only country in the world without stray dogs. We are, let us say, organized. The building has a thorough foundation, maybe as strong as the foundation of the Vincentian charism. Let others be the judge of that. But will all that welcome strangers? Will it solve the problem of poverty? We have no stray dogs, but we certainly have poverty. How can original residents and strangers get a shared house? Dealing with strangers is not easy, not only in the Netherlands. Look at political negotiations on quotas. Look at the fear of being under the foot of Muslims. Beneath the surface of acting, it's a matter of courage and fear, of trust and mistrust.
Yes, it is all ambivalent. Ambivalence is the simultaneous presence of opposite feelings. As an example, I'd like to invite you to look at the story of Vincent de Paul when he was a young man in French 17th century society. He, Vincent, has been a guardian of pigs and sheep. And so he came as a young man to school from the countryside to the city of Paris. He experienced what it is to be alien or curious. Look at the story he later told. My father, he says, came to visit me. I was ashamed of my badly dressed father. Vincent and his father, a common house. Through this experience, he was pulled back and forth between feelings of shame and love. His family, the first poor in his life, he felt ashamed as well as responsible for them, to them. He experienced in himself the ambivalence of feelings of reserve and approach to people who live on the periphery of society. It is not without struggle that he became able to handle his different feelings. He learned to hold up the ambivalence as a part of his existence.
In a special way, we can actually see the ambivalence in the Folleville Church. As you know, it's in this church that Vincent preached his famous sermon 400 years ago, January the 25th, to invite people to liberate themselves from the burden of fear and anxiety by general confession. When I, being a building man, look at the picture of the Folleville Church, I immediately see some remarkable features in the architecture of the building. From the outside, there's a higher part with bigger windows and a lower part with smaller windows. From the inside, there's a rich part and a modest one. The choir is richly and beautifully ornamented. The shape of the church with its wooden ceiling is simple. I learned that the rich part of the church was added around 1513 with the arrival of les seigneurs, the nobles. And the little village church for ordinary people is from earlier days. Both parts of the church have different names. The modest part is named Saint-Jacques le Majeur, and the rich part is called Saint-Jean-Baptiste.
The architecture of this Folleville church is very symbolic for Vincent. looking at the images of the poor and the rich part of this church, you can hardly believe that these two parts belong together. Vincent has the ability of dealing with this ambivalence. He has the competence of uniting what is separated. He connects rich and poor, high and low, city and countryside, religion and society. It is this two-sided church that plays such an important role in the start of his charismatic work. In this we recognize the remarkable ability of linking, of connecting what should be together. And in this church, we learned once more to see people as fundamentally equal creatures. So later on, Vincent's charism of mission developed in prophetic courage. Throughout his life, he saw the countless refugees who came as strangers from areas of war to Paris. And he proceeded to act. So he got the charism of charity, becoming an icon of social commitment in receiving them and creating conditions for living.
The corporate world would admire Vincent's advice, make no small plans. I learned that on a course of Vincentian leadership. No need here to explain Vincent's conviction of the values of the Christian tradition. You're probably very much aware of that, as you are of his practical ambitions, I would think. Maybe we should reconsider helping in the way we want, talking about being practical and always wanted to help. Maybe we should consider helping in the way the stranger would like to be helped. Of course, we all know that people don't always think what we think they think. Let's think about that. And let's not speculate about things that we can be certain of by simply asking. And then by really listening to the answers to our questions. Not by listening to be understood ourselves, but by listening to understand. A lack of flexibility, a lack of willingness to change when needed, a lack of true interest in others, or a lack of motivation to do good in the eye of others can be seen as a persistent kind of poverty, with unintended consequences, maybe even with the disappointment of a lack of gratitude. Let's think about unsolicited advice. Some months ago, I fell down the stairs, and my ankle was heavily injured. I had to walk with crutches. Being a real man, I looked forward to stretching my time of suffering as long as I possibly could. But I realized I only asked advice from my doctor, not from anyone else. And yet, I got a lot of unsolicited advice. And I mean a lot. And all of it contradicting other advices. I felt like a temporary stranger. I did not feel helped.
Once again, dealing with strangers is not easy. This concerns the stranger in ourselves, like in Peter, as well as the stranger from outside. We know it and we experience it in closed hearts and closed borders. What is the challenge of the inner connection of mission and charity today towards refugees and strangers? It is the challenge to work with the opposite feelings of staying away from and being attracted by the stranger. We can learn it from the meaning of the Greek word xenos. It means both stranger and guest. Stranger and guest. The stranger refers to being different. Guest refers to looking for commonality. The one side stands for staying on yourself, creating a sheltered world, and the other side refers to openness, learning something new. Vincentian is at work wherever people live, and the answer is the virtue of hospitality, already known by Abraham. Without hospitality towards the 3 young men visiting him, he would have missed the calling voice of God.
So, how can we contribute to building up the contact between strange and familiar, understanding each other in our pluralism? We see signs of it in today's world, parables that can address the challenge of the difference and can inspire to live in harmony, which confronts us looking for a solution once again with the question, is it possible? So far, not always so good. Maybe we should reconsider our points of view. Maybe we should keep the value of our traditions, but start handing over the flame instead of the ashes. Can we truly accept the idea that the stranger may know things that we don't know? The idea that the stranger might be right? Can the stranger teach us? Or does he already teach us and help us by moving and challenging our steady habits?
An important example is the answer Pope Francis gives to serious problems in our world. His spirit of Pope Francis is similar to the Vincentian spirituality. And you can see this when you look at mission and charity, our catechism. The Vincentian catechism of mission is expressed in the encyclical Evangelii Gaudium. And the Vincentian catechism of charity is expressed in LAUDATO Si. 2 encyclicals, 2 sides of the same building. In that sense, we learn about the opportunity of a common house.
And if we decide that it is our responsibility to act upon all that, wherever we can, and to inspire others, we may well be on our way to a true Vincentian method. Maybe we will never fully solve the problem of poverty, of fully and effectively facing the challenge of welcoming the stranger. Maybe we can learn from the poor and the stranger how to be better at it. Maybe Vincent himself would have been seen as a stranger by some. What a wonderful opportunity to reconsider how we look at strangers. Let us investigate and not judge. After all, only then he can inspire us to make no small plans, to be pragmatic and effective, to be a movement and not an institution. An institution, if it wants to stay alive, must be moved from within. Every house, as we know, has an outside and an inside. And this also applies to the common house. As the Vincentian family in the Netherlands, we want, in cooperation, of course, with others, to contribute to the Pope's policy. And we truly want to do this in the way of the famous Vincentian charism.
This charism is the way of mission and charity together. Charity without mission is like a body without a soul. In the Netherlands, our country, and in the whole Western world, we have to emphasize mission. That is the inside of the common house. The base of doing so comes out in remembering the Exodus history of Israel and the Son, Father, the story of Vincent de Paul. These events teach us that the conversion to the stranger takes place by being conscious of the stranger in ourselves. This consciousness may lead us on the way of prophetic courage and social commitment. Not only, but sure, in the Western world, we have to remember the challenge of Folleville as the basics of charity, the inside of the common house. As you probably know, for Vincent, mission was a three-sided operation. The advice to his missionaries when they went to preach a mission was, first, bring knowledge to the people. Second, let them say a general confession. And third, organize charities. Three elements, three dimensions belonging together. You can call it evangelizing, liberating, serving. In the middle is liberating. Vincent experienced this in the confession of an anguished man. We can do nothing if there is not a new spirit of liberty in ourselves. This new spirit and the quality of the inside are emphasized by Jesus when he says to his disciple Peter in Luke chapter 22, when you have come to yourself, you must lend strength to your brothers. There's one condition for helping. When you have come to yourself.
Now, in the corporate world, the companies that survive are quite often the companies that focus on the needs and wishes of their clients. And they act upon that focus in the way their clients value. Maybe our added value has little meaning if it's not perceived as recognized value by others. If we add only the value that we consider valuable without verification of the values of the other, are we really helping? Maybe we should consider verification before deciding which value should be added. Dialogue can lead to surprising insights. A Dutch marketeer claims that vision without action is hallucination. But the reverse is also true. Let's become more and more conscious of the fact that the interior of a house is as important as the exterior, as goes for charity without mission, that may be seen as added, but not always as recognized value. So, concluding, after 400 Vincentian years, our idea for the next 400 years is let us think, let us ask, let's listen and learn and act on our way to truly welcoming the stranger whenever and wherever we can.